Hey folks, you're
Absolute Packer podcast initiating in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, fans of Absolute Packer Podcast. Welcome to episode 14. Andy and Elliot recapping the Packers versus Steelers. This was a rematch of Super Bowl 45. The team names were the same, but the players were a little bit different, and the talent levels were a little bit different, I would say. But, yeah.
On both sides, really, I think.
Yeah. What's funny is Ben Roethlisberger, it seems like he's been in the league for like 20 years.
Right.
But he's been in, I want to say, since 2006. So Rodgers has actually been in the league longer, but he sat behind Favre, obviously. So, it's just an interesting, just when you look at to see how long that Roethlisberger's been the starter, though.
He just looks old.
I know he does. He always has looked kind of old.
It's funny because my brother and I were saying that during the game. We're like, how old is he? He looks old.
And he's massive. He's like 6'6", 200, and he's like a linebacker.
That's probably part of it.
Yeah.
Being big,
but he's great at avoiding the rush. It's like the guy never gets sacked. And I mean, it's not like the Packers put a ton of pressure on him. I mean, they barely put any, but still, he's just he's so good moving around in the pocket like all those savvy, veteran quarterbacks are, the good ones. So, and I would say he's underrated, but
he did not have a really great game. All said.
No, he did not. It was not what I expected, no doubt.
I do think the Packers defense stepped it up a little bit.
Yes, I agree. I would agree.
But they're not the best defense either.
That's the thing. Coming into this game, I think I read a stat that the Steelers hadn't scored more than 26 points in a game that season. And, of course, in this game, they scored, 31, I think it was. I mean, I know we kind of laugh because we're like, oh, they're playing the Packers. But I would still say that's almost a moral victory because their receivers and running back. Let's put it this way. And I made a note of it here a little bit later, but we could bring it up now. I mean, Antonio Brown, their wide receiver, and their running back, Le'Veon Bell, those are the two best players on the field for either team, Packers Le'Veon Bell, to have basically the number one receiver in the league and the number one running back in the league at the same time with a really good quarterback is, I mean, you talk about a three-headed monster, man alive.
They should be better than they are.
I would agree with that. They really
barely
should.
Squeaked out a win.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bears beat them, right?
The Bears did beat them at home. The reason why they're not as good as they should be is, and we kind of saw it. I mean, Hundley threw 3 long touchdown passes. 2 of them were, one of them was completely busted coverage, which was, nasty. It looked like our defense. And then he had the screen pass, which was actually, I mean, I put the note here. They finally completed a screen pass to a running back, which the Packers, for whatever reason, since Brett Favre, and even a little bit during when he was there, they've just never been able to run, or it's all about timing with a screen pass, and they never do a good screen pass. And in this one, it was flawless, and it was so flawless, it ended up being a touchdown.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but in the secondary, so there was a long one to Devontae Adams, and then a busted coverage one on Cobb. So, long story short, the reason why the Steelers aren't as good as they should be is their secondary isn't very good. The defense on the whole is pretty good, but their secondary is kind of messy. So, yeah,
led to a good game.
Yeah,
though.
it was. This was probably the most entertaining game I'd seen this year between the Packers and the opponent. And I would venture to say it was one of the most entertaining games on primetime of any matchup there was this year. It was really fun to watch, and with a Brett Hundley led team, that's saying something. But Hundley looked great. So. Yeah, I'm hopping. I hopped like right into the X's and O's, so I'll kind of poke here to see what we talked about, how entertaining it was. Hundley looked better, yeah, and I mean, when it comes to Hundley, so many of the other, like the last game, the Ravens game, that just looked. I mean, he looked beyond bad, and he wasn't staying in the pocket. He was bolting, and every time he'd bolt, he'd run out to the right, and he couldn't make a throw, and it was just every single time he would do that. And in this game, he actually stayed in the pocket and stepped up into the pocket when it moved a little bit, and the results generally were pretty good. And McCarthy helped him out a little bit with some plays. Like I said, I mentioned that screen pass. I mean, I don't want to bring it up again, but the fact that they completed a screen pass was stunning. When I saw it, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Because they never, even with Aaron Rodgers, best player in the league, they could never complete a stinking screen pass. So, I mean, that was outstanding to see. And they made the right call at the right time. So, the thing we're seeing with Hundley, though, too, is it's kind of Jekyll and Hyde. It's, he looked okay against the Bears, and then he looked really great at the end. And we're like, okay, now he's going to make the leap. And then the Ravens game happened, and you're like, we should trade him for a bag of dirt,
I wouldn't trade him for a bag of dirt.
Yeah, being facetious. To the bag of dirt, that is. No, I'm kidding. But no, the Ravens game, that was brutal. I don't know what the hell happened. And what's interesting, too, is all his losses have come at home. It's like, why is he struggling so much at Lambeau Field, but he's playing well on the road? It's the exact opposite of what you see in the NFL. So it's this weird anomaly.
Though, Lambeau Field is not this magical place that it once was.
No doubt. That's definitely
I feel like some of that has maybe just even under Rodgers, I feel like that has tapered off substantially. Like, he plays just as well on the road as anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. And part of the reason, that's a good point, that I think the Lambeau mystique is gone is this team is so damn pass happy. And when you think of Lambeau, you think, oh, the frozen tundra, you got to run the ball. It's like McCarthy doesn't give a rat's ass about running the ball. He just wants to chuck it all over the yard. So they're not built for Lambeau Field. They're built for domes, and fast track areas. So to that point, there really is no home field advantage.
Well, I mean, Super Bowl's going to be in the dome this year. So
Minnesota.
I mean, we're all set.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe not.
Yeah. It's looking dire. They gotta win out to have any shot. They can't have any losses, period.
I think it's almost mathematically impossible.
Yeah, even if they win out, I still don't think they get in, to be honest, but stranger things have happened. So
that is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So voicemail?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we have a voicemail. Let's play this guy.
Hey, Elliot, it's Jay. Wondered if you guys had numbers or some kind of stats on points scored off turnovers by the Packers under Huntley. It seems like they don't score points off of turnovers on a short field. That's my question. It would probably be nil to only a few points scored, as I recall. Thanks.
Excellent. That is a good question. And I'm willing to bet that the stats are not very good in the Packers' favor.
Yeah. So what? Much like Jay said, he thinks that the points that Hundley scored after a turnover, I think are 0 or 1 touchdown, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not very good.
But I don't have an answer, and I would like to look that up. So
yeah, no doubt. That is a good question because in the NFL you have to take advantage of turnovers, whether it's your backup quarterback, your starting quarterback, whatever. And depending on the field position, that's another big thing too. If you get an interception deep in an opponent's territory, then it's almost effectively like a punt, But if you get a turnover at the 50-yard line or, potentially, closer to your own goal, the other opposing goal,
right. You should score.
So yeah, that is definitely a good question that we'll have to dig into a little more, and I think we kind of know the answer. But
well, I mean, just based on this last game, I mean, we had 3 interceptions, and the Packers did not win. So
yeah,
that number is not very high.
yeah, that's something.
I'm not a mathematician, nor
that is
NFL
definitely an anomaly of a stat. The esteemed colleague, I say that in jest. Bob McGinn, I think I told you he was the old beat writer of the JS Online, and now he's ventured out. He did mention that. I was reading his grades. I still always read his grades because they're just exceptional. Grades every position, every side of the ball. Unfortunately, you can't just go to JS Online to pick his stuff anymore, though. You have to subscribe to his information and pay money for it, which I did because I love Bob and I love all his stuff. But he did have something in there where, it rarely, if ever, do you have a turnover ratio that's 3-0 and you lose. But with this team, that basically, it tells you something about the offense, but it also tells you something about the defense. Defense is getting turnovers, but the defense is also a sieve, So.
Yeah.
if you get this defense in 3rd and long, I've never seen anything like it. It'll be 3rd and 16, and you're like, they're going to give this up. I mean, it's just crazy.
And what do we do on 3rd and long? Nothing.
Yeah, we run a draw play that gets 3 yards, or we run a wildcat where a guy's 5 yards in the backfield. That damn wildcat McCarthy does. Jesus Christ.
Well, it's just the worst possible times, and you just
it's a complete give up play is what it is. It's just it's not even trying. It's I don't know.
And maybe it's just the feeling, the momentum feeling, but I would not make the play calls he makes when he makes them. But I give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, he's a professional. I am not, Monday morning coach, so to speak, right?
No, I hear you. But yeah, the reason I'm not a fan of that wildcat is every time you see it, number one, Cobb's going to get it. He's not going to throw it. And see, the thing with this offense, and I've said it kind of in passing, before, that McCarthy does neither of his quarterbacks any favor. I mean, you got to earn every damn yard. He doesn't give his quarterbacks any easy yards to get with. He doesn't use a whole lot of scheme and deception to get people. So every yard you have to work so damn hard for. And if you're on like a wildcat, the guy's already 5-6 yards in the backfield. You're already set up, 5-6 yards behind the line of scrimmage to try and get yards. So it makes it even harder.
So do you think that is a product of trying to draft and develop? Or the
scheme itself, or what exactly?
Well, the lack of scheme, by just having things.
No, that's a good question, and I would. My personal, I can't back this up with,
I can't either. I was just wondering.
I can't back this up with any sound reason. Is basically what I'm saying. Empirical data be damned. No, but my personal theory on it is, when you have McCarthy's had, the luxury of having 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, back to back. And when he knew what he had with Rodgers, so his scheme is predicated on, man to man, beat your man in front of you. We're not going to use scheme. We're going to line them up and you're going to beat your man in front of you. And if you have an all-world quarterback with some Pro Bowl wide receivers and we'll say just an average running back, you can beat the piss out of people. Look at 2011. You had Aaron Rodgers at, he was just turning into the superstar after the Super Bowl, and they had their top 4 receivers were ridiculous, and they had Jermichael Finley at tight end. So it was you couldn't. So you had an all-world quarterback, Pro Bowl wide receivers, and a quasi-Pro Bowl tight end. It was just so they hummed along. When you have a drop off at those positions, if you have an all-world quarterback, but you don't have Pro Bowl wide receivers, you get what happened in 2015, where even Aaron Rodgers looked like a below average quarterback because he just didn't have any talent in front of him. Now, it also goes back, that was the year Davante Adams and everybody was on his he was on everybody's shit list. But he was hurt that year a lot worse than what people thought. I think he hurt his ankle early in the year, and it was a pretty bad sprain. And then they tried to bring him back too early, and he re-injured it. And he was just never the same. So Davante Adams has looked much better this year. He's never going to be, a burner, meaning just like blow you by with speed. But he put a move on a cornerback in that Steelers game. Did you see that on the replay where he caught the long touchdown? Oh my God! When he did that stop and go route, he sold the inbreaker and then just busted past him. He broke that guy's ankles. He's got a quick twitch to him, which is nice.
So is Adams now officially like our number 2?
No, he's our number 1. He's number 1. Jordy Nelson. Have you seen his stats with Hundley? He's non-existent. He has like 50 yards in 5 games with Hundley.
Well, right. Numbers wise, I guess Adams probably is top, but in terms of like who the organization considers like number 1, number 2, number 3.
That's a good question. I would still say it's Adams, because, and here's the thing, even if the organization says, well, Jordy's number 1, well, matchups and players on the field dictate who's number 1. So I'm sure the Packers have kind of already come around. McCarthy's come around to it. What's kind of as a side note, what's really depressing. So remember, this is the game with T.J. Watt, who the Packers passed up on in the draft, and they took Kevin King, the cornerback. And that's a bunch of revisionist crap, in my opinion, because the Packers needed a cornerback just as bad as they needed an outside linebacker. And I was fine with them not taking T.J. Watt. Was he a good player? Yeah. But he also found a perfect scheme. They got a lot of other good defenders that make him look good. He's a rookie. We'll have to wait and see. But the reason I bring up T.J. Watt is, and this tells you something about Jordy Nelson, T.J. Watt, who was an outside linebacker, was covering Jordy Nelson in the slot, and he broke up a pass. If your supposed number 1 or number 2 wide receiver is being covered by a linebacker, they're slow. Mm-hmm. And if the linebacker makes a play on the ball like he did, your receiver is slow. Jordy Nelson is slow. Now, that's just the life of a player, though. You know, when you see it, you're going, oh, my God. But, you know, he's 32. He's had a major injury. He's on the downside of his career. But, again, McCarthy's not going to do anything fancy to get his guys open. So, you know. So, Devontae Adams is far and away the number 1. And then, you know, Cobb, he had that long touchdown on a busted play. But Cobb's a dead man walking after this year. He's going to get cut simply because of his salary. His salary is way too big. You know, that contract that Ted Thompson gave him was, I mean, he's making too much money, and he overpaid him. But
probably. Yeah, so on the unofficial, it says unofficial on Packers.com depth chart. In the 1 wide receiver position is Jordy Nelson, then Adams. So I guess that's I don't know. They switch around, but
that makes sense.
And
it
then
doesn't surprise me.
But then Randall Cobb is in the other one, followed by Allison.
What has he done in 6 games? Or with Hundley? He hasn't done anything. Yeah, he hasn't really done anything with Aaron Rodgers. And see, here's like kind of a word of caution. I know we're kind of going off script and ad-libbing a little bit, but this is all pertinent stuff. You know, each year the Packers bring in a lot of undrafted, you know, rookies or just undrafted free agents. And, you know, last year it was Geronimo Allison was one of them. And Aaron Rodgers made him look pretty good. And
he makes all of these guys look good.
Yeah, really good quarterbacks make receivers look good, right? Look at him now. Right. I mean, look, and there's a reason the guy was undrafted. He's not that good. You know, I mean, he's not that fast. He's not got the greatest hands. You know, he's not that savvy. He's not the best route runner. In short, if you're just a guy, a jag, you know, that's what he is. He's just a guy. But guys like Aaron Rodgers can elevate you, you know?
Yeah.
So
I think that that has been proven.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Week in and week out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where are we at? Let's see.
Defense forced 3 turnovers while the offense committed 0. Yeah, and then we had kind of did talk about that where
and we still lost the game.
Now, so getting into the defense, listen to this stat. The Packers defense missed 19 tackles. 19.
Oh my gosh.
One shy of 20. That's enough for almost 3 games.
Right.
I mean, it's just and it's, when I see that, is it coaching? Is it it's that whole thing, chicken or egg, right? You know, undisciplined of it. But the big thing I see there is lack of well, I shouldn't say it's one thing, but we just don't have a lot of speed on our team. You know, that's one thing too. I mean, missed tackles can come from over pursuing, and that's a big thing. It can come from bad angles, you know, if you're coming at a bad angle on the ball, but it can also come from if you're not fast and you're getting juked out of your shorts and you're just not fast enough to catch up to a guy or whatever and hit him square. And when I look at this Packers team, there's no speed. There's no speed.
You know, so I always try to, I don't know, I feel like maybe I'm making excuses to a certain extent, or I'm just trying to find the sanity maybe where there isn't any. Sure. But so I mean, they didn't have that many penalties.
No, they didn't.
And so, you know, missing a tackle here and there versus bad penalties, it would be great to have neither. But you know, striking that balance where it feels like we're completing the plays on the defense and not committing penalties, like it's just I feel like we can't have one without the other.
Yeah, this team. I mean, what you're kind of getting at is, you know, this team is not good enough to survive a lot of mistakes. You know, they have got to play. I mean, if they want to win, I don't want to say they have to play perfect on all sides of the ball, offense, defense, and special teams, but they got to basically play damn near a flawless game to beat decent teams, you know, like a Pittsburgh Steelers. There's no way they're going to, you know, win that game, even if it's a 3-0 turnover, if they have 19 missed tackles, you know?
Right.
I mean, maybe if they had 4 or 5, that might be one thing, but the margin of error for this team is just too thin when Aaron Rodgers isn't there. You know, it's just, you have to basically play darn near perfect game. So some of these guys might be trying too hard. That could be a part of it too. You know, they know that. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, but
well, I think that happens when they feel like they're not good enough, they do try too hard, and then there's penalties.
Or when you try too hard, you over pursue. And generally, if you don't do your job, as they say, and you're freelancing around out there, and you're just trying to make things happen, that's bad. And they don't, particularly on defense, they don't have the talent to do that. They just don't have it. You know, I mean, the pass rush. I mean, look, that's the next one on here. Absolutely zero pass rush. That doesn't help the secondary. If you can't pressure the quarterback, he's going to pick you apart.
Right. But I mean, we kind of expected that. I mean,
although
honestly, I expected this. I thought this game would go much worse.
I did too. No doubt. I thought it was going to be a blowout. I think I picked what did I say in the who you got thing on Facebook? I think I had 35 to 14 or something.
Which sounded reasonable, and really it ended up not being that far off either.
But I put on. I don't know if I have it specifically, but Nick Perry, who just got that huge extension, he didn't do shit. I mean, his stats. He is very disappointing. I mean, he does well against crap tackles and backup and third and fourth stringers. If he goes up against anybody who's adequate to above adequate, he disappears. And that's with Clay Matthews on the field or not. I mean, not having Clay Matthews and Kenny Clark hurt. Kenny Clark has played really well this year, second-year jump as the nose tackle. So not having those guys hurt, no doubt. But this is where you need a guy who just signed a $60 million contract to do something. He only registered half a tackle in the whole game. I'm like, what is that good for?
Yeah.
That's disappointing, Perry. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were going up against a, theoretically world-class quarterback.
Yeah. But he didn't even get any pressures.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to get a sack, but he didn't get any pressures, he didn't get any hurries, he didn't get any of that stuff. He was just had a assist on a tackle. That's, ugh.
But I think they knew that going into it too. I mean, so it's like the chess game of football, right? So the Steelers knew that we weren't going to be given a lot of pressure. So to a point, the Packers didn't even bother, and I think maybe that was part of the game.
Yeah,
plan,
no doubt. I think that's part of it. They're trying to let some, give some more guys out in coverage. That is the chess game. Yeah. But I'll also say, going back to the, even off season, the beginning of the off season after last year, everybody knew that the Packers were going to struggle with their pass rush, because when you looked at what you had, it was going to be Nick Perry and Clay Matthews. And Nick Perry's okay. He was better than Clay Matthews last year. Let's put it that way. Clay Matthews is a shell of himself as a pass rusher. I mean, he's an okay player, but he's not anywhere near what he was. And then the guys behind him are just nothing. I mean, they're just cardboard cutouts. You got, what was it? My favorite guy, Kyler Fackrell, and I can't even remember the other. Ahmad Brooks was actually a guy they did bring in, but he's been hurt. Is free agent, so it's just it isn't a surprise they don't have a much of a pass rush, and you wish they would have reinforced it some capacity, because we're seeing what we knew we were going to see.
Is Clay Matthews back this week?
I think so.
He should be, right? Because I didn't think it was that big of a thing.
I think he's done too. After this year,
we talked about that before. I don't know if we're up to me. I think I'd almost clean house. Feel like,
Yeah, and the more I think about it, Thompson's not going anywhere. I've thought about it. Thompson's not going anywhere. McCarthy's not going anywhere. Capers is going to get canned. Right. So they might try and rebuild the defense. And if you bring in a good defensive coordinator, like a good hire, a young hire, a hungry hire, I mean, somebody who's got a lot of ideas, and, I'm looking for someone outside the organization who's young. And you turn over some of the roster on defense. I'm not saying they could become world beaters, but you could turn them into what they need with Aaron Rodgers coming back.
But the defense was the only thing that kept us in the game the other day
against the Steelers.
Against the Steelers, yeah.
But we did have 3 long touchdown passes, right? Yeah, but do we get those without the turnovers? Who knows? But the defense isn't good. We know that. I mean,
right.
So now, when you say clean house, you're talking about McCarthy, Thompson, the whole shooting match.
I mean, realistically, I know that's not going to happen, but I mean, I would clean house as much as possible. I mean, there are contracts involved.
Yep.
So, I mean, whatever is realistically allowable, I would try to do that. I mean, the continuity obviously doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not helping them. It's the enemy of this team, as I've said. Continuity.
I think it is the enemy because there's some complacency. I mean, whether
hubris,
you
hubris beyond belief.
Yes, and whether you think that Matthews is complacent or he's just over the hill or whatever the deal is, like it feels like there was some complacency and it caught up with us.
I agree. I completely agree with that. The other flip side of that is you put yourself in Mark Murphy. I mean, he doesn't care. He does, and then he's not going to do anything. I'd be stunned if Mark Murphy did anything. Like I said,
he doesn't care. I don't think he cares at all, and I can't blame him. I mean,
money making machine, baby, right?
Yeah, it's a money making machine.
Yeah,
and the only thing we're going to miss out on is some of the money from the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I mean, he's just kind of like, yeah, we'll just let that keep going. We have Aaron Rodgers. That's our, meal ticket. And I don't want to get too,
no, I know.
Sarcastic on it or whatever, but I don't have faith in Murphy to do that. And as it goes along, I'm going, I mean, is it the right thing? I honestly don't know. It's a risk,
Yeah, you know what? Sometime once the season wraps up, and whether we know like if Capers leaves or not, like, I would like to, if they don't name somebody right away, I'd like to kind of go through like who we think would even be a reasonable person to slot in there, because I hear this all the time that he's got to go, but like but
you have to have a successor. You have to have somebody.
Yeah. So I'd like that'd be nice to look into.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be premature right now, but I think that would be.
They need to clean house on defense. I hope if they do can Capers, they don't. The last thing I want to see them do is fire Capers and promote somebody from his staff. That would make me mad beyond belief. But I could we see that coming? Maybe.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah. So
Antonio Brown is inhuman. That catch he had.
It was.
And you know what's funny? If you look at his measurables when he was a draft pick coming out, he wasn't even that much of a prospect. I mean, it's incredible what he's done.
Those are the ones. Like those are the ones that just become the superstars. They come out of nowhere.
I mean, he's just so savvy. He's not the fastest, but he is quick. He's an incredible route runner, and his hands and feet, eye-hand coordination, all that is just stunning. That catch he had where he dragged his foot was just, I mean, tip your cap.
It was amazing.
Tip your cap.
Yeah. It hurt, but it was.
He is better. I think he's 5'10" too. He's not that big of a guy. I mean, he's a pretty short receiver. That's like, I think Randall Cobb is about the same size as him.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah.
So
I wish we had him. How about that? That's about all you can say. Could you imagine Aaron Rodgers throwing to Antonio Brown?
That's
oh my God.
Yeah. I don't even like to fantasize about things like that because it just makes me sad. But
I know, and that's
if we had somebody amazing,
if he had like a Julio Jones or even like a Rob Gronkowski, it'd just be man, that'd be unbelievable. That's no doubt.
Or a great running back.
I think Aaron Jones could be that guy. I mean, who knows? He's actually supposed to come back this week. But you have to wait to see if he's, a one-year wonder or, he didn't get a chance to play with Aaron Rodgers except for one game or whatever the heck. Jamal Williams is okay, but I don't see him as a starter. He's doing well with what he's got, but they'll figure him out, the league and defenses. But Aaron Jones, he's got some burst. He's got some quickness. He's got a lot of talent. So hopefully this knee injury doesn't slow him down.
Wow.
But yeah, then I have next year Le'Veon Bell. I mean, they have the number one, basically a top 3 wide receiver and the best back in the league. Bell is, jeez Louise, I wish we had him too.
Well, I feel like the first half, we did a good job containing those guys, but just it fell off the rails.
And on the freaking, it sucks on the final drive. I mean, they moved 35 yards in 17 seconds.
Yep. And
that one catch by Antonio Brown was, I mean, it was all world, but I mean, that's the defense right there, just right down there.
Yeah.
When you got to have a stop. I mean, and actually they did get one, but then McCarthy, that was when he came out in the press conference and said when they were running the ball, that was when TJ Watt had the helmet-to-helmet hit on Hundley. It didn't get called. And then apparently the next play they ran, Jamal Williams went out of bounds. He wasn't supposed to, so the clock stopped. But nobody told them that they weren't running the 2-minute offense anymore because they didn't know if Hundley was hurt. They didn't know if the flag was going to get called. It was an interesting exchange. But the defense did hold, before that. And then the Packers gave it right back from offense. So, yep. It was a very, very, very entertaining game. And I was disappointed we didn't win. But outside of that, it was awesome. It was an awesome game to watch.
And if we looked at the schedule closer to the beginning of the season, we might have marked this one as like a question mark anyway.
With Rodgers, I would have marked it a 50-50.
Yeah. But I would have picked us to win over the Ravens. I would have picked us to win most of these other games.
I venture to say, I'm not even kidding, that we might be 9 or how many games? What would it be, 5 and yeah, we'd be 9-2 or potentially 10-1 with Rodgers.
Yeah, I know.
Really could have been.
Be completely
I would say probably
season.
9-2, but that's very realistic.
Yeah. It's very realistic, and we were on track to do that.
Yeah, but the Vikings look good. Yeesh. And they got a freaking third-string quarterback or whatever the hell playing well. I mean, that Adam Thielen, that white wide receiver they got, he's undrafted. He's something else.
Is he the guy that they kind of got off the street from?
He's undrafted.
He lived in Minneapolis or something?
I don't know about all that about him. I know he's undrafted street free agent. And man,
that's crazy.
It's good stuff.
Like they make movies about things like that.
Nice. Rudy.
Right.
All right. Rudy. Yeah. Oh, God.
So.
Marijuana and Packer players. They go together like, I don't know.
Yeah. Like that's 2 in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. Well, apparently, when I typed this, things have changed with this a little bit. So we know Aaron Jones got popped for marijuana. And then around the same time, apparently, Lance Kendricks did. But what happened was they released the dash cam footage and they gave him a warning for speeding, but there was nothing that actually happened with marijuana. I think on the dash cam footage, they were saying something about it or whatever, but he wasn't officially charged or anything like that. But something was going on there. But I mean, again, let's just say that marijuana is not that big of a deal anymore. I mean, socially and where things are headed, and the league will come around to that. But, it's still illegal now. And you can't put yourself in these positions, No,
not at all.
And so it's frustrating. And I mean, let's put it, he's going to get suspended for one game or whatever. It won't probably happen until next year, obviously. Same with Aaron Jones. But, these guys, they face suspension because of this crap, and it's.
Well, and I mean, I don't get hit week in and week out. And, maybe there's some pain management.
I'm sure that is. I bet you 90% of the league smokes weed all the time.
But like this team does not need that. Like either the bad PR, the police report, the suspension, but also the complacency. Like, marijuana makes you chill. Yeah. And they do not need to chill. They do not need to relax.
Yeah. What's funny was in the Aaron Jones one, he walks up. I think the cop walks up to the car in the dash cam footage. And when he either rolls down the window or opens the car, he's like, "Yeah, man, what do you got going in there?" And then, like the cop, he basically has this. I can't remember exactly what he said. I'm screwing it up, but he basically said "Yeah, I smell some marijuana in there." He's kind of like, "Yeah." I'm like, what in the world? It's kind of funny, like this little old yokel from Green Bay or something like that.
Right. So I'm looking over our JS comments and I'm just losing my mind. There are some amazing ones. Let's see.
Well, I put 3 here. They're on page. They're going on to page 2. Rodgers is coming back next week. Packers will go 10-6. Make the playoffs for sure. Idiot writers need to learn the game of football. I love it.
Okay, you know what? I love all 3 of your picks because I didn't see those before, but those are the ones I saw too. That's so good.
I know. Idiot writers need to learn the game of football. I mean, Rodgers, they're like, he's starting to practice. He was throwing footballs and whatever, and everybody's like, yeah. Guess what?
Yeah.
He's not coming back anytime soon, people.
No.
He's not.
No.
So just stop. No. But that is still funny. Fatty McButterpants was outcoached. What a great gloss that is.
I mean, so
I know. Just laugh. You can't stop. Fatty Mc. You know what's another one I've heard from multiple social media outlets, and I don't know if just one guy calls him this, but Mashed Potato Mike. You ever seen that? I see people call him Mashed Potato Mike all the time. Mike McCarthy. It's hilarious.
So, I always think of an NFL coach as being like you know how like the president of the United States, it's like just ridiculous how they go into office, they look young, they come out, they look really
they look like they've
old.
aged like 30 years
Yeah,
and
like
in
double.
like 8 years. Yeah.
Like they all go in like salt and pepper, and they come out and they are like white haired.
Oh yeah, every single president looks like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, no doubt.
And I think that NFL coaches suffer a little bit from that, but also in the weight department.
Yeah, the stress.
Like they all put on weight. Like I mean, it's almost across the board.
Yeah,
they're the ones that don't are the exception, and I think some of them are actually probably 10 years younger.
Yeah, you know who hasn't looked that much different as I think of it right now? Belichick. I mean, he's gotten older, but he hasn't really. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But
he's not a skinny guy to begin with.
No, he's not. Yeah, that's a good point. But no, you're right. If you look at like, I remember Mike Sherman. Oh, before and after, boy. You know what was funny on Twitter? I remember when Mike Sherman, because we were talking about JS comments, there, and Jim Rome. This was back when I used to listen to Jim Rome on the radio, which I haven't listened to in a long, long time, but. They referred to Mike Sherman back then as that pear-shaped loser. They would always call him that.
Oh my god!
But yes, it was.
Yeah,
funny. Mashed potato Mike. That's what I always see. It makes me laugh. Fatty McButterpants. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Now the next one is just. It might be the best one ever. I am 61 and have been consuming cannabis off and on for 43 years. Consuming cannabis like he's eating it all the time.
I mean, so obviously that was in reply to the possession charges things, but I mean,
but when you read it on Jay's comments without any context, it's outstanding.
I mean, right. So I mean, it is absolutely hilarious, but right? I mean, we need to legalize this stuff. It really needs to happen.
I know.
It doesn't excuse people for doing things that are illegal.
When do you think it'll be legal? Not in the NFL, but when do you think it'll be illegal, nationwide?
Well, I mean, we're almost there.
And we are, but it's, I mean, do you think we're
are we at 29 states that are where it's legal? It's like I think it's over half.
Could be.
I mean, and I think that's a combination of like medical marijuana and like whatever, but I mean, we're close.
You think we're like a year or two away, or maybe?
Well, it will never be well, I don't know. I mean, it could be a federal thing, but I don't think that this Congress will do that. So I think it has to be state by state. And I think it's going to be like all the states around us, it's legal. So like it just puts pressure on us to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can just drive an hour and it's legal.
And if you're 61 and you've been consuming it for 43 years,
yeah, I know.
You are the gold standard. You are.
It's amazing. That's the one, like, it used to be a pretty substantial charge. Maybe it's less than that now, but I mean, it's the fact that you would put that in public and say that, like,
I know.
It's amazing. The other ones that were must have been the same person, because I haven't heard the Wonderlic test.
Oh, what's that one? I didn't put that one here.
There were two of them that had that.
Oh, it was something about Wonder Bread, Mike.
Yeah, that one was awesome.
I'm gonna have to find that. We're gonna do that in real time.
This one, McCarthy took the Wonderlic test, ate about 7 loaves of Wonder Bread.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Yeah.
I wish one day we're gonna have to find out who is running the JS Online account. It's like Deep Throat, who is Deep Throat? Who is running the JS Online account?
Right.
Watch it be Bob McGinn. That'd be great.
Well, I mean, it's somebody who has a little insight anyway. But I mean, this is fun. They're hilarious.
I know.
So, any thoughts on the upcoming Bucks game?
They should win, but every game's 50-50 coming out. You know what I did find out? Apparently, the Bucks have the worst pass defense in the league, which I had to do a double take because I'm like, somebody's worse than the Packers. But the Packers are bottom 5, I think, but they're not, 32nd. Right. But so yeah, the Bucks they're not a very good team. And Jameis Winston, that quarterback they drafted a couple of years ago, who was really good in college. He's kind of a, an off the field distraction, and he had some issues at Florida State, but he was doing really well. And now this year, he's dropped off and he's been injured, and I think he's going to play this week. But Tampa Bay's a disappointment.
I thought he wasn't. Maybe he wasn't. I don't know if I heard.
I thought that he was going to play actually, but
I don't know.
But
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the Packers should win this game. But again, right now everything's 50-50, and I don't know. That's about all I can say on this one.
Yeah, he's questionable.
Okay, I think he will play, but there was one business league stuff thing here, and this has to do. It's kind of like 6 degrees of separation from McCarthy.
Oh yeah, Eli.
Oh my God! And the reason I brought it up, well, that number one, but also his coach is Ben McAdoo, who used to be a Packers assistant, so he's from the McCarthy coaching tree. What an unmitigated disaster Ben McAdoo has been. My God, talk about a dead man walking. And the other one, I'll get back to McAdoo and the Giants here in a second. The other one was Joe Philbin. You remember Joe Philbin? He was coach of the Dolphins, and that was a disaster too. So McCarthy's coaching tree is decrepit. It is not good at all. But yeah, Eli, what do you think about the whole benching? People are all...
I think it was smart.
It's a straight business move.
He's over the hill. This is what I've been saying. Like when it doesn't matter, you should get your backup some reps either way. I mean, I think they're going to trade Eli, right? Is that the deal?
I have no idea, to be perfectly
honest. But even if they weren't, their season's over.
Well, no, they're like 2-9. Their season is done, no doubt.
So whether they're going to trade him or not, they want him healthy. So like let your other guy play because he's going to be your guy next year.
But you could also say, I look at it this way too, and it's kind of, so Peyton Manning and the Colts, when they separated, did their thing. They probably did that the right way, and they kind of lucked. Right. I mean, pardon the pun, but they lucked into that because when he's injured. Well, he was injured, but they also were so bad they got the number 1 pick that year for Andrew Luck. So the stars kind of aligned. So that happened to work out well. The Packers and the whole Favre split was a disaster, as you know. But this one with Eli Manning, it's kind of like, where's the template to, sitting down a great, I'm not saying he's Hall of Fame quarterback, but a great quarterback. What's the template for doing it?
Won 2 Super Bowls. I don't know.
Yeah, and everybody says, it was the defense that carried him, and it's like, well, he was a pretty good quarterback. I think he was a little bit overrated, but he was good.
You don't get in there and win if you're bottom half.
No doubt. I mean, their defense was all world, no doubt. But Eli Manning wasn't a game manager. I mean, he's a good quarterback, and I would say he's above average.
He's above average, and he won when they needed to.
So,
but not this year.
But yeah, when I read though that they benched him for Geno Smith, I'm like, Geno Smith. I couldn't believe he was still in the league, number one.
Yeah,
I think we know how good he is. He sucks. He sucked with the Jets.
Yeah.
So the fact that he got benched for Geno Smith was kind of puzzling, but. Yeah, the Giants. Ooh, boy. I mean, and here they're like a cautionary tale. It's like you don't want the Packers turning into the Giants where they just fell off a complete cliff, with a quote franchise quarterback,
Right.
And they spent a lot of money in free agency, not this year, but last year.
Right.
On defense, they spent like $100 million in contracts. I mean, they're going to have to blow that team up.
Right. Well, I mean,
and they're going to fire the coach. They're going to fire they're going to blow everything up,
I think that's what we should be doing too, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean,
like I said,
we're gonna end up finishing like middle of the road, 8-8 or something,
and that's like a death sentence for us.
That's
right
the
now.
worst.
No, it is the worst. And
that's like the worst case scenario.
I know. It's the bullseye of mediocrity, right? It's
yes.
And like I said, I just don't see Thompson. He's got one more year in his contract after this year. I don't see him retiring at the end of this year. I don't see them elevating, somebody else. And McCarthy, I just don't see it. I see Capers getting canned, though.
I don't know. I mean, you think they would nudge him into retirement?
Capers?
Yeah.
Capers has said he doesn't want to retire. He'll get fired. He has said on the but I mean, the game has passed him by. The game passed him by 5, 6, damn near almost a decade ago. So whatever reason they held out, the game has passed it by.
Yeah. I just worry that changing everything like overnight is gonna, we're gonna struggle the first half of next season.
Well, I was gonna say, if you do this, I mean, it could be, you don't want to say a lost season, but if you do it with a quarterback, that's the hard part. If the quarterback is still in his prime and you blow it up, it's unknown what's going to happen,
See, that's why, I mean, we almost should have we should have almost like forced the evacuation mid-season this year.
Yeah,
because I mean, we're gonna lose 2 seasons out of the whole fiasco. I just
yeah, I know, I hear you. I mean, it's a risk either way, and there's all this unknown stuff. So
So Packers are favored to win. Last I checked.
Is this game at Tampa? I can't remember.
No, it's here. Okay. I mean, it looked like it was here. I drove by Lambeau. The lot was full. Pretty sure it's here.
Okay.
It's pretty sad that I don't know. I mean, usually like
I should know too. I don't know.
Everything's like top of mind, and now I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to watch it.
Nice. No, I'll watch it. I always watch the Packers games, but I couldn't. I don't know. I couldn't remember if it was on the home or on the road though.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I got nothing else. I don't know if you got anything else.
No, I'm pretty good. I'm gassed.
Can wrap it up. Hopefully I mean, you know, I have really mixed feelings. I want the Packers to win. Don't get me wrong, but
I know where you're going, but you almost want them to kind of half tank too, because you get that better draft pick and it'll be more an impetus to maybe see change. But yeah, here's the thing, no doubt. I honestly think that if they lost every game here on out and they finished, what would they be, 5-11? Same thing happens. I think Capers is gone, but nothing else happens.
I think
that's a foregone conclusion. Capers is gone. No matter what else happens, McCarthy and Thompson are coming back though.
I think you're right. I mean, unless they choose to leave, but I don't see that happening either.
Or unless, McCarthy punches Thompson in the face.
Well, I mean,
or McCarthy runs over Mark Murphy's dog, or
you never know. I was reading about Gretchen Carlson and Greta Van Susteren, when all the sexual harassment stuff, and they were like fighting over Twitter. So, when things kind of go downhill,
oh god,
things can blow up. So who knows? It could turn into a fun soap opera.
No kidding. Wouldn't that be some weird ass shit comes out?
I don't want it. I like wins. I like Super Bowls.
It would have been nice. Mark Murphy's been like lighting bags of shit on McCarthy's doorstep, ringing the doorbell or something.
Yeah.
But I hear you, they're kind of in between. So do they tank? Do they? Yeah, it is what it is. That's why we watch. That's why we pay attention.
Yeah. All right. So next week then, go Pack, go.
Cool. Go Pack, go.
Podcast.
Chair.
I know, right?